What is up, everyone? Welcome to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name's Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, Callum Monroe from across the pond. Callum Monroe, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're just talking about Deathloop, and now I was just trying to sort of remind myself about all the different things in it because it is really confusing. So sorry if I looked confused then.
Yeah, that's just your constant
Yeah,
normal state. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
uh I'm playing it, and I don't know if I'd. We've said that over and over again watching the trailers. It's like I don't know any more about the game, and I'm playing the
yeah,
game, and I'm still kind of learning the story along the way, and still like not understanding. But I know I need to kill people. I'm shooting stuff. Everything's resetting. I'm still having fun, but I'm
yeah.
trying to like understand. I feel like a dummy playing it too because it's like, should I know more than I do now? I don't know, but I'm just gonna continue.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I've felt like I'm really, really bad at it, but I think it's sort of you can just tell that there's something there, and I think it helps you like just keep persevering, and the whole loop thing makes it death a little bit more. You know it's going to happen, so you're sort
Right.
of there's times where like you can just risk everything because you know that you don't have anything important or whatever. But yeah, it is very confusing even when you start playing it because like you said, we didn't even know what it was before. But yeah, it's good.
Yep.
I do enjoy it.
With
And sorry, you go on.
I'll go for it. I was just gonna say before we get into Deathloop, did you play anything else this week?
Yeah, well, I not this week, but I did. I had played some Hades
Right.
the couple of weeks before, which didn't really get a chance to talk about. I wasn't sure if that's something you've been going into at all as well.
I haven't touched it in a bit, but it was when it went to Game Pass. I jumped in and played it, and I was having fun with it. I'm not a big um, roguelike fan, and I think
Hmm.
Returnal really nailed that home for me. Where it's like maybe I just don't like this genre, but I find myself having more fun with Hades, just with
Yeah,
the story, the artwork, the gameplay. It's really really fun.
yeah, I think it's much more. I think approachable than Returnal, definitely. I find it does what I think it was Dead Cells did a similar thing where it really tried to give every sort of chance to the player, so you never sort of feel like you've been hard done by. And I mean, there's lots and lots of things to get your teeth sunk into as well in Hades that transcend sort of every run. So it's not. I think in Returnal it feels a lot more like disheartening when you die because you don't really have an advantage going into that next life. Whereas in Hades, you just get so many chances to improve and so many like things to so many sort of systems to get yeah like your teeth sunk into. And I think that's what pulls you through and gives you that I want to go again sort of thing that I don't think Returnal really gives you. And I think that's like such an important thing for the genre and probably why Returnal was so divisive as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it is a really cool time where we're getting a lot of these games building on that on the games before it, as far as in the roguelike genre, where they're picking and choosing what works and adopting it. So with Hades, they do have the really positive aspects of that genre. I never played Dead Cells, but I know I've heard a lot of that same stuff where they've picked key things that work well, introducing it into Hades, and we're seeing that going forward. It's a unique genre. It's really cool. So that the idea of resetting and having that replayability, it's like it's a really unique thing, and I want to jump into it more. It's just a lot of these games turn me off, but we're starting to see these now a couple years through where they're picking a lot of these cool elements and they're
Mm.
building just a better crafted experience as far as roguelites go. So I think
Yeah,
Hades nails it, but of course in a couple years now they're going to build from Hades and pull from Returnal, and another dev's going to come in with something that's dope with roguelike. So
yeah.
I can't wait going forward. It's just right now I'm not super into it, but Hades I am into.
But it's nice to see this genre get this sort of like more not AAA but more like cinematic kind of take on it. I think like Returnal and Hades, they're both a lot more story driven. I mean, especially Hades. I know it's obviously set in a very uh, look, Greek mythology. There's tons you can do with it, but they've really nailed it. How characters will remember sort of different things that you've done in
Right.
Hades, and sort of different characters you'll meet that will then be sort of once you kill them, they obviously spawn back where you spawn when you die, and you can talk to them, and yeah, there's just so much meat there that isn't just in the game but also in the story. And Returnal did it in a different way where it was a lot more AAA cinematic sort of a proper almost film-like kind of thing. And I think that's probably what draws more people sort of to these games, because although it's not a new genre, they've definitely been more hardcore or less sort of known about games.
Yeah, and it's a great. It seems like a no-brainer. With we're used to, as far as video games go, this idea of resetting, of playing over and over again, of like arcade kind of machines where it's like you nothing saves, you just kind of are replaying the same level, trying to get further and further. You die, it's done. So it seems like this makes total sense, and I love the build on it and having things carry over and earning that ability for something to carry over. I wish I had a little bit of more of that in Returnal, but I know that I just had my own issues with it. A lot of people had a blast with it, and maybe
Yeah,
in time I'll go back to it. But I wanted a bit more of that in Returnal, or at least making me understand what's carrying over, what's not. And I'm
yeah,
such a dummy where it's like I'll gloss over things. It's like you really have to sit me down and show me, okay, this thing is transferring over. Do this to have this thing
yeah.
transfer over. With Hades, it just made a bit more sense.
Yeah, and but even Deathloop is a similar thing where you've got this system where you're going to die and lose everything. And yeah, I think these games are only as good as their ability to give you stuff that carries over each run. And I think that out of the three, and that all three of them are games that I've played, quite recently, and for the first time, I feel like Returnal, that is definitely where that seems to not be pulling me in to play it, because I never beat it, and I'm much more likely to. I feel like I will beat Deathloop and I will beat Hades, and I think that's probably just because each run on Returnal is much more dictated by just how good you are at the game, and I'm not very good at games, so
Yeah, same.
not anymore.
Right. Well, we're talking about not Hades, Deathloop. Let's transition over to that. So, been playing some of Deathloop. I'm about 5 hours ish in. I think we're around the same area, but let's give some experiences playing the game. Have you, right off the bat, have you had any performance stuff or any issues with the game itself? I've had some on PS5, but I know it's kind of hit and miss with some people on PC. They're having some performance issues. But what's your experience been like?
I think for the most part it's been running fine. I think it looks decent. I don't think it's, the best looking game out or anything like that, but I haven't had any sort of negatives in that area. I think every time the little cinematic it plays when you wake up on the beach is a little bit juddery, but that's probably about it. I think I've been pretty lucky from that side of things. But yeah, I've heard it performs quite poorly on PC. Um, and that was something I was thinking about getting it on PC as well. So I'm glad I opted for this just easier the easier route where it's all just spec'd up for you on the PS5. And yeah, I've had no performance issues at all.
So I bring that up because I've had audio stuff going on. So there you have this antagonist calling you on your radio every once in a while, Juliana. I have yet to hear her voice in those interactions. So I've deleted the game, re-downloaded it, still had that same
Have
issue.
have you muted your controller speaker? Because her voice comes out of the controller.
I don't know, Callum. Come on, man.
So
I was thinking that maybe the game did something wrong. You're telling me that I could have heard
sorry,
her
that's
through my
that's me that's
speaker?
me that's me putting my IT support head on
God
there.
damn it. I didn't know that
Trying
was
to
a
fix the problems.
interesting. Okay, so she only
Yeah,
communicates through the speaker of the
yeah. So
DualSense. So you're telling me.
you might have turned your speaker down on your controller, perhaps.
Oh boy. I think
It's
I
worth a check.
yeah, I'll check that. I think I do have in the settings some kind of default thing doing that.
Yeah,
Although I noticed like when you manually mute it, it has that yellowed out option on your DualSense
yeah.
and it doesn't
And
it's not lit up.
either way, that like it should be able to know if your controller speaker's turned down and play it out of your TV or something. It can't
You're
like
right. It is the
expect.
game's fault. Let's get back to
Yeah,
that. It's the
yeah.
game
That's
not
it.
knowing that. Man,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I'll check that out. But beyond that, there's also another little performance thing I had on PS5 where the frame rate was weird, and I'm not a whole like frame rate expert or whatever. But when it dips enough where it's like, okay, this feels weird, almost kind
Mhm.
of nauseous. I had that a bit when I played on PS5. When I deleted and re-downloaded the game, that seemed to fix it. I don't know if what was happening, but I did experience that a little bit where it was just kind of weird to move around and to aim. But now it's
Mhm.
running smoothly. There is those three performance options or three visual options rather. There's performance and then those two visual ones you can toggle. I don't notice a difference between those. Have you messed with those at all?
I haven't actually. I wasn't even sure what different sort of options there were. I haven't looked yet, but Yeah, no, I haven't toggled through them at all.
Gotcha. So there's three. There's one that is ray tracing enabled, and that one will. I want to say it's not a lock 60. It's like hovers around 40 FPS, 50 FPS. Then there is a lock 60, and then there's kind of a balance between the two. And I've toggled between them, and I don't know any visual difference, and it seems to
Yeah.
run, around 60 on all of them. So, but yeah, I played around with that, and it still looks, really good. It has that same style as Arcane does with their games, and I love this style. And so that goes a long ways to where maybe it's not gonna blow you away, but the art style rather blows me away more than anything.
Yeah, there's definitely I think whenever you see an Arcane game, you know it's an Arcane game. They really have a sort of a particular style, and uh, yeah, the way their games are. There's just, I mean, it's similar when we talk about Resident Evil 4. I mean, that game just has a very distinct style that you can't describe, and I think it's the same for Arcane games. They, with Dishonored and everything, I think yeah, there's definitely just some DNA in their games that you can recognize, and it's really cool because I haven't played, I played the first Dishonored when it first came out, but I never finished it and I haven't played it since. So I know that there's that they're meant to be really great games. So I've been looking forward to playing Deathloop, and whilst playing it, I have been sort of thinking maybe I should go back to Dishonored, because I can definitely remember Dishonored playing very similarly, and how you have these targets and you've got to try and decide the best way to take them out, and you're always trying to look for sort of vertical ways up the levels and things like that. So yeah, I think the DNA is definitely there, and it's nice to see that they're not trying to change the things that they do well, and that they're just trying to sort of expand on it. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and this one, it always when they first showed it off, it was really on my radar where it would seem to rely heavily on action compared to the other games from Arcane. So with Dishonored, it was way more about sneaking. You had that action element for sure, but there was way more options for sneaking around, for being undetected. With Deathloop, you can still do that, but it's more of a, they focus you on, actually running and gunning action kind of elements, and I do enjoy that. Although as I'm playing it, it's like I would like the option to, you can sneak around, but I always end up messing it up and then have to kill everybody or I die.
Yeah.
But if you do enjoy sneaking, not Deathloop, the Dishonored series is awesome for that, with all the options you have for just being a stealth ninja and then just taking
Mhm.
people out.
Yeah, I do definitely want to get into those, but I like the sort of run and gun nature of Deathloop as well. I mean, I'm not very good at it again, but it's it seems pretty fun in that there's lots of different like things around you that you can use to your advantage, and it seems quite nice to you in the way how you can escape enemies and sort of hold down little positions and run away if you need to, and grab health. It seems manageable, but you do die very quickly, um and you do start off as like a very weakened version of what you can be, because obviously there's a lot of growing room with all your slabs and your abilities and things. So it's nice because I think yeah, I'm about 6 or 7 hours in, and I'm starting to feel my character getting better equipped and stronger, and everything, and obviously just getting to know the maps as well, because there's only four sort of key locations, so you do get to know them quite well. So yeah, it definitely feels like something's clicking, and I think it's a cool take on the sort of Dishonored stepping around and using these like arcane abilities and things. I think it's a, like I said earlier, it's still got that DNA of their games, which I think is really important, but it definitely feels different to anything I've certainly played in a while from anybody.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I love the setting it's in with this kind of pseudo 60s 70s kind of style, but with still like modern tech mixed in there. You have your magic elements in there somewhat too. I'm really enjoying it. I'm starting to get to the point where your weapons carry over, which is awesome. I was under the impression at the beginning where it's like once I reset, everything is reset, where I have to then go and find, because I found some cool weapons, and they kind of show you that there's these side missions where you can find various overpowered weapons that are really unique and cool, but then you lose them. So I now finally unlocked the ability to carry that stuff over. And so now I'm on
Mm,
board. I was initially thinking like, oh
yeah.
man, I have to, build from the ground up and do everything over again. You don't have to do that. That is really neat. It's trying to show you all the different bosses that you'll have to find, how you would then kill them, and then how to actually maneuver them into the same area, or like to
Mhm.
try to make the most efficient run where you can actually get them all in one day,
Yeah.
which seems like a lot of work. Like I'm at the beginning right now, and I still understand who I need to get where. It seems like it's going to be a big hurdle, but I'm still it seems fun to actually try and get them together and to complete it. Have you tried the because there's that multiplayer aspect, which makes more sense now. So it's another character that can jump into your game playing Juliana, who will hunt you every once in a while, or you can be that person, and then you can also turn that off, and it's just the computer running after you. Have
Mhm.
you messed with that at all?
Oh yeah, I put it straight into single player mode as soon as I could.
Yeah.
I just yeah, I mean, I would imagine that people are probably because I don't know how like leveling up your Juliana works or what gear you get with her, but I imagine you can get some pretty powerful stuff. So I just yeah, I can't be bothered to have to. I mean, like I was saying, I'm still not very good at the game, so I just don't need that
Right.
right now. Maybe when I'm getting better and everything, um, I really like the aspect of Juliana sort of showing up because it can you spend a lot of time trying to like infiltrate one of these places where these targets are, and there's a lot of locked doors, and you got to find lots of different vertical ways around things and everything. And she can just appear when you're right near the end
Yep.
of it, and it's scary because you don't get the option to infuse your gear where you spend some of that the residuum sort of currency or whatever it's called. You don't get that option until you've left the level. So it can be pretty scary when you've already died a couple times and Juliana invades your
Yeah.
game. Is pretty cool. And there's also a massive payoff because when you kill her, she drops random slabs, and slabs are like the abilities that you get off of these visionaries that you're trying to kill. And she can carry any of them at any time. So it's a really good way to grab those and fuse them and keep them forever, and then you can start upgrading them and things. So there's a lot to it. It just feels like it starts to unfold quite slowly, and I think that might be off-putting for some people, just given how confusing the game is before you've even started it up. But I'm glad I've stuck through it, and I feel like it's really starting to, bear its fruits now.
Yeah, same. I had that initial, hesitation or frustration with it, but I knew that okay, I'm really early on. There's a lot to kind of unfold, and the game needs to show me it in various stages. And I think they've done a good route with unfolding information, because it is you have to kind of think ahead with new players. Like, of course, you have all these cool features and different things to do, but there's an art to how you unfold that information with the player and not turn them off. I think they've done a really good job with doing that. I do want to try with Juliana. I've also turned off the whole multiplayer thing, so it's just the AI following me around. But it seems like a really cool way to make this game replayable. Once you do complete it, you jump in as Juliana, or you enable it and play again, and with her being an actual player jumping in. So it seems like a really cool idea to me.
Yeah, and I think you get sort of rewards for your cult playthrough as well if you do it. I mean, I don't know whether you sort of have like a separate profile or loadout for Juliana or whatever, but yeah, no, I've heard it's quite difficult. It's more sort of in the favor of the player who you're invading, so it can be quite difficult at first. But I've also heard that people have gotten really good at it and know like the spawn points and things like that, which can be quite frustrating because they can just sort of sneak up on you and just break your neck, and then
Right.
that's your sort of run over, which might be quite annoying. But I think as you get further in the game, you'll probably start feeling a lot more confident in how the game plays, and you might want that sort of challenge added to it. So it's a really interesting feature to have, and I'm glad that I sort of understand exactly what they were trying to explain with with all the trailers and things now.
Right, right. I understand with the need to kind of bump up the difficulty. I had that initially where a lot of the enemies are pretty easy to kill. They're also a little on the dumb side. I think that's maybe the same formula with with other arcane games like Dishonored, where they're not the smartest AI, but in this game where they start to balance that out as you get further in, is they throw a ton of enemies at you, and it seems like that's how they're kind of going back and forth with it. But I did initially think that, man, everyone's really dumb. I'll kill somebody, feet away from another character, and they don't notice anything, don't hear anything. Other times, I will take someone out, and then they'll hear from across the map and come and find me. So it is a weird balance there, but they seem to just throw more people at you as you go forward.
Yeah, and I've heard that I think because when you can sort of scan these enemies and it will tell you their sort of skills, and some of them it says like is a really good shot, or is
Right.
or the other way around. And I think that they get more common the more visionaries you kill, because every visionary kill you're going to get like a really cool special ability, which is going to really help you, especially when you're in combat with lots of enemies. So I think that they just sort of have harder enemies and up their sort of skill, because there's been a lot of gunfights that I've got into in places I'd been before, but they were very different, where they'd start putting mines down,
Mm.
and yeah, there was just they just seem a lot more aggressive. But again, I don't know if that's just because I'm not getting better at the game. Um, but yeah, it definitely feels like it's doing something to keep that difficulty kind of balanced as you get stronger as well. But at least that when you get stronger, the game becomes a bit more, there's less sort of pressure, because there's a lot of pressure around sneaking around and not going head first. But as you get these really cool weapons that you get to keep over runs and these abilities, that's when it just becomes really fun to run around and go out all guns blazing. Because I think that's how they sort of showed it in the trailers as well. All the trailers were full of like really cool gunfights, but then I felt that in the game it tries to talk you out of doing that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So as I've got further in and gotten a little bit more, understanding how the game works and getting access to different guns and abilities, I've started, trying to have a bit more fun with it and just be a bit more aggressive. Um, but yeah, that is actually one thing I did find, is it doesn't really make its fun special abilities and weapons very attractive, because it's always trying to talk you out of using them.
Yeah, I noticed that same thing. There's the messages that Colt is leaving behind, or someone's leaving behind for him, that you actually see in text form in the world, and they're often like, "Don't go over here," or "Turn back
Mm,
around," or
yeah.
kill yourself. It's all this stuff where it's like, oh, delete the game. It's all these things like that. But I wonder if they're just trying to ease players into the challenge. Maybe there's a little bit of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, we've seen trailers where it's just run and gun action, but it's maybe when you're at that point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll disregard those messages and go, yeah, whatever, and I'm just gonna keep going forward, and usually I die or whatever.
Yeah.
Someone did pull up on Twitter. I want to say it was Lucy O'Brien from IGN, and I have felt the same way. She was saying that one of her favorite things is to grab one of those briefcases with the turrets, drop it in a room, and like walk away and like set it and just mow
Yeah.
people down. That's pretty
Yeah.
dope. Although I've been killed plenty of times by those turrets, like I just don't notice
Yeah.
them, and they just take you out, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, the turrets are pretty interesting. They do kill you very, very quickly, probably quicker than any of the enemies I've actually faced
Yeah,
yet. But yeah, they can be really useful, and they make it quite difficult to hack them as well. I find like you have to really be in their line of fire to hack them, so it
right.
can be pretty nerve-wracking trying to get one on your side. But yeah, there was a few times where I sort of uh, started a fight with a lot of enemies, and I kind of wish I hadn't. So I was just sort of, I find I do this a lot, where you just sort of have this part that you can keep retreating back to, and you can like regroup, and maybe there's one of those health stations there or whatever. And yeah, I find turrets are helpful for that, because you could sort of make them chase you and bring them down to your turret, and that can help. But so yeah, so I think there's a lot of I think the turrets, yeah, a great example of different ways that you can approach this game, because there's lots of different character perks you can get related to turrets and things as well. So
Mhm.
I think that they must know that these are there to be utilized. But yeah, like you said, they kill you very easily as well, so they are kind of a double-edged sword.
Right. I've noticed with the hacking, you can. I don't know if it's a bug or something, and maybe this is one of my invented bugs that I've made up. But you can you have to get into a range to actually hack it. But once you look at it visually, you start the hack. If you move away from its line of sight, you're still hacking. So you don't have to actually stay and
Mhm.
keep looking at it. So I've
Yeah.
noticed you can peek around a corner, start the hack, and then move away, and you're somehow still hacking it, and not in no longer danger of getting shot at. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's an intentional thing or what.
Yeah, I didn't realize that actually. That sounds useful.
Yeah, it's something in there that, along with my muted mic, that I've noticed. But yeah, so you're pretty positive overall. I'm losing my voice somehow. I'm also super positive on it. I want to continue playing it. I've read people are saying around like 20 hours of gameplay ish. I feel like that's, I expected more. Not like I need more, but it seems like with the amount of experimentation, there was going to be a lot more gameplay hours.
Mm.
But I'm totally fine with if it's around 15, 20.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how much you enjoy the online aspect to it. I mean, that might be. I know that like player invasion multiplayer. I mean, you look at Dark Souls, people, play that have played that for years, just just that aspect of it. So it might keep an audience, a portion of an audience past 20 hours. But I think that's a great length for if you look at a game like Dishonored, or Dishonored 2. They're maybe not even 20 hours, those games, but you'd be pleased with a game of that length in that kind of genre. I think anything above 20 hours to finish the game would probably be a bit too long personally for me for a game like this. But yeah, no, I think it sounds like a great length, and it's definitely got a lot to it. There's no way of feeling hard done by the price or anything like that. I don't think it's definitely worth the admission fee, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Have you noticed you're playing on PS5 as well, obviously? So that was one of my reasons why I went PS5 and not PC was the DualSense features. There's a whole thing with the gun jam, which does happen in the game. I don't know if I notice it when it happens on the trigger. It's just I see the button prompt,
Mm.
unjam the gun. Okay, fine. But I'm not noticing anything crazy on the triggers. Or do you have the same experience?
Yeah, I'm the same. Obviously, there's something there, but it doesn't seem to be quite as impactful as maybe it was explained sort of probably before the DualSense was even out, when all the sort of previews were coming out about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it works well. I mean, the footsteps are quite cool. It sort of helps you to know if you're crouched or not. And I
Right.
find that in some games can be quite annoying, especially ones that require quite a lot of stealth, is knowing whether you're crouched or not. So that's quite a nice way to feed that sort of to you. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say the dual sense isn't good, or but yeah, I think maybe they could be a bit better for sure.
Yeah, I guess I was interpreting it as the gun or the trigger actually like locks like halfway, like you
Mm,
feel pressure
yeah.
where you can no longer press it, and it's just kind of I think they give way of any resistance, so it's just that is the
Hmm.
feeling of the gun jamming. But yeah, it's a little thing. It's not the end of the world, but I didn't notice a big change on that. But the
Yeah.
vibration you mentioned, yeah, that's really dope with the steps that you're taking. Just in general, the DualSense vibration is awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe I think we still need more time to fully, this is the first year of the PS5 in that feature itself on the DualSense, so it's going to take time. Or it's just a cool little thing that is there if devs want to use
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and I think that's what it will be at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think it's massively important. It's just like a nice little have, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I play lots of games on my PC with a DualShock 4, and I don't sort of sit here missing all of the feedback or anything. So, but yeah, it's nice. It's always just a nice touch. It just adds to the experience. It can't really in a negative way, unless it's just going to like vibrate for no reason.
Right. Which could be cool. It could be a cool feature. I don't know.
Could be cool. Yeah, could be cool.
I think Astro's Playroom is probably my favorite experience with like really, and it's a tech demo,
Mm.
I guess, but it's really pushing all the different features on the DualSense, and that was still my favorite example of like what can be done with that DualSense.
Yeah, and I still need to get the new Ratchet and Clank, and I've heard that it's good with that as well. So, and Returnal, it's a big sort of feature in
True.
Returnal as well, which I think stands out better than sort of some other games. But yeah, I mean, it's not the be all and end all if it's not ever, you know, really impactfully used. But it would be nice if they do try taking risks with it. That break our controllers. Let's proper go for it.
Yeah. They're only 70, $80, big deal.
Yeah.
All right, Callum. We're gonna continue playing on with DualSense with Deathloop. Having fun with it. We got some PlayStation news for the time being. We got this first one here was from this week. Anthony Mackie is set to star as John Doe in the Twisted Metal series from PlayStation Productions. So I got the story here from Destructoid. Chris Moyes has the article. The latest word from Tinseltown is that actor Anthony Mackie, perhaps best known for his star turns as Marvel's Falcon and Captain America, has signed on for the long rumored television adaptation of PlayStation's franchise Twisted Metal. According to the Hollywood insiders over at Deadline, Mackie will both star and executive produce the series for Sony Pictures Television. Early details suggest that Mackie will take up the role of John Doe, an amnesiac, smartass milkman who is offered a chance for redemption when he agrees to transport a mysterious package across a hazardous post-apocalyptic wasteland. The journey will be fraught with rampaging marauders, environmental perils, and one homicidal clown in an ice cream truck. Cam, I think you mentioned before, I don't know if you've played the Twisted Metal games, but how do you feel about this and Sony really starting to adapt their IPs as TV shows and movies?
Yeah, I haven't really played much Twisted Metal, but yeah, I think it's you know I like video game movie adaptations. I don't normally like the action films, but I like just the general idea of it. So I think it's cool. Yeah, like, I think it just shows that we're probably going to get quite a lot of these. So it could be a cool little way to get it started. But yeah, I haven't seen much Marvel stuff of recent either, so I'm not too sort of into how good Anthony Mackie is. But I've heard he's great, so it's a good casting, I guess.
Yeah, he's really dope as Falcon in those movies and the Disney show they put out last this year too. So he could be a cool character in this. I know with Twisted Metal, I've never played a bunch of them, but I've always been aware of the franchise and especially like the cutscenes. I know they got kind of darker in tone quite a bit towards the last one. I think it was on PS3, but they're always for some reason really serious with how weird the world is, but you end up just driving a car and having to compete with other people who are all like disfigured and have weird backstories and murderers and stuff, and you have to kill them with these cars that are set up with guns and rocket launchers and stuff. And then you have the clown who's somehow on fire. So it's always it's
No,
been a weird world, but it
now you
seems
put it that way, yeah, I'm pretty excited for
right.
it.
It's a cool idea, and like I think it does transcend, especially with this idea of in that breakdown of the concept where he has to travel across this post-apocalyptic wasteland. So I think of like Mad Max, especially the last movie, where you can add those weird elements into it, and he's your main character experiencing it for the first time. I think it could really work as a TV show, assuming they have enough budget, which I'm also assuming they will put it behind this.
Yeah, you'd hope so, because especially considering this whole PlayStation Productions thing's quite it's a fairly new thing, isn't it? So you'd imagine they'll want to sort of start it off well, because you don't want people to like lose faith in it sort of
Right.
straight away. So yeah, I guess and yeah, Anthony Mackie seems like a really big sort of name to put against it as well. So yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a high production movie. But yeah, I think yeah, your comparison with Mad Max definitely makes it sound pretty cool, because I think that Mad Max as an action film, there's been nothing quite like that since it. So it'll be cool to have something sort of just absolutely mental and vehicle based as well. Hopefully, that could be quite cool.
Right. Yeah, I'm stoked. It's still very early on. So later in that article, they mention the script is still being written. It's being pitched at various studios. So they're saying maybe 2022 as far as when cameras start rolling. So it's going to be a while. I wonder if this ends up on HBO. They have that relationship now with HBO where the Last of Us TV show is going there or straight to Netflix. I'm not sure, but they're starting to do that. I'm surprised at this point Sony doesn't have their own streaming service where it's like we have our own content. Here's where this content goes, but at the very least, it's getting made in the first place. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's just cool that it's happening. I think it's promising for, because there's so many like narrative based franchises in that sort of sphere that could really benefit, or not benefit, but I suppose benefit me selfishly, just because I want to see everything adapted. But I know that that's not a very popular opinion.
I share that opinion. Like, I think there's some stories that could be told and they don't have to actually play them. Say with The Last of Us, also could be done really unique visual style. The narrative is so strong. The character's so strong where I think that works well. Something where it's like only relying on the gameplay, yeah, it's not going to work for a TV show. But they have so many properties. Now's the time to start using them and make money that way. It also generates buzz for the game when it eventually comes out. It's kind of a no-brainer. So I'm glad they're doing this. It's gonna be a while before Twisted Metal. I think we're gonna get Last of Us next summer, so that will be the first big one from them. So we will see. But yeah, that's going down. Alrighty, Callum, we got the next one here. Breakdown on this from the PlayStation blog of the new PS5 update that happened this week. So I downloaded the update. I haven't messed around with a lot of the settings and update stuff that's been there, but I have a breakdown here from the PlayStation blog. So we have the new PS5 system update brings additional SSD support, 3D audio, and more. So there's a couple of blurbs here. So we got control center customization. Players can now customize their control center more freely by rearranging or choosing which controls to hide or unhide at the bottom of the screen. We have enhanced game base. Players can now easily view and write messages to friends, parties directly from game base in the control center. Cal, before I go into every little nook and cranny of these details, have you downloaded the update? Have you experienced anything visually different as far as what the update goes?
Yeah, I downloaded it only because I've now got internet. I just download everything
Yeah.
because I sort of took it for granted. But yeah, no, yeah, I've downloaded it, and the only thing I've noticed is they've changed the like little signs for PS4, PS5, and PS3 on the sort of tiles of your games. But other than that, I haven't noticed anything new. But I haven't really been using it. I've only sort of got back onto the PlayStation sort of recently, so I'm not sure if I've just forgotten everything and assuming that's how it's always been. But I did turn on 3D audio, but I think I need to do more to set it up because I'm not noticing any differences yet. But the fact that that's even there as an option is really really cool, and I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, same. I downloaded the update, but I thought that that 3D audio component was just automatic, so I didn't notice anything when I was playing Deathloop. But reading through this, you actually have to enable it somewhere in your settings to do
Mhm.
that. But I am interested to play around with that. Apparently, you can calibrate it with the mic on your DualSense to then bounce audio and kind of figure out where the sweet spot is. That seems like a cool idea. But if you're using just standard speakers within your TV, and those are pretty basic too, so I'm not sure what that translates into as far as like noticeable audio change. But yeah, that's in there. That's one of the features.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned the toggling of, or how you have that breakdown of what your game is downloaded as, whether it's the PS4 version, PS5 version, or PS3. That's really cool to just visually see it, and not have to go
Mhm.
into your little options there. We got. I'll send messages every once in a while, so now you can actually do that through the game base. You don't have to load it. You can just send someone a message through that little bar at the bottom. That's pretty awesome that they enabled
Yeah,
that.
I think the game-based stuff has just always been like really confusing to me. It's like one thing that I think the PS4 did a bit better was the sort of social side, but I haven't played around with that sort of since the update. So maybe they're sort of taking some strides to make it better. Because I know that they've improved the sort of if you look at your library of games, they've allowed you to. This is a few updates back, I think. But they allowed you to sort it like A to Z or search through it, which you couldn't do before. So it looks like they may be ironing out some of these problems, and hopefully it means that we'll just get the best possible user experience we can through software updates.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like they are somewhat listening and adding stuff afterwards, manipulating stuff afterwards. There is this thing called
Mm.
accolades too, which apparently you can leave feedback on players that you'll play with online. So you can. There's no negative accolades that I can see from the blog. It's just helpful, good sport, leader, welcoming. So you can leave feedback that maybe that helps them match people together a bit more that are actual players and not trolls. I don't know how that works, but it seems like a cool feature. But that is there as
It'll,
well.
it'll probably be used as like currency when PlayStation Home comes back.
Oh, yeah, it's happening. It is
You'll have
happening.
people like hoarding accolades ready for
Right.
it, like
Yeah.
doomsdayers.
Yes, in the future, that's how we pay our rent is through
Yeah.
PlayStation accolades. They also had some updates to PlayStation Now, so you can choose whether it's streaming in 720p or 1080p, which is cool. I wonder the reason why to not add 4K, but maybe that's just too much to stream if you're streaming a game and you're actually the
Yeah.
feedback of playing the game in 4K
I
might be a bit
I
much.
I think it's always I think 720p has always been the maximum. So I think that they've now just added like an additional uh, level of resolution. But I think it's already hard enough streaming through
Right.
PlayStation Now 720p. So I'm sure if they added 4K on it, just you would need to be like plugged directly into like Sony server to be able to do it probably.
You just got to buy a separate PS5, hook that up, and then you're
Yeah.
streaming in 4K.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the 3D audio support for built-in TV speakers. I want to play with that more, but that is also in the update. And then we have the big one, which people have been waiting for. There was that beta initially where you could have early access to try this M.2 SSD update on your PS5, but now it's open for everyone to upgrade their PS5, their PS5's internal memory. Have you? I think we talked about this before, where it's like I'm not in a rush to do it. Are you in a rush to now do this?
No, not at all. I haven't had any problems with the storage, or I haven't come close to filling it yet. Because I try not to download too many games at once because I have a problem with sticking to one game as it is. So yeah, I don't have any sort of issues with the storage yet. And also those SSDs are extremely expensive and they're like brand new tech, so they'll probably break and have all these issues and things. So Yeah, I'll just wait a couple of years for them to be like £100, and then maybe grab one. But hopefully games won't in a few years time won't be like massively different in file size, so it should be like a nice plateau of storage. But yeah, we'll see it. Yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll go down in price and fix any issues, which I'm sure there probably will be, because it's like brand new tech.
Right, right. No, I hear you. I think the only thing stopping me from buying these things are that they are so expensive. But otherwise, I do like to. I'm the opposite where I want to download everything and have it on my PS4 or PS5 ready to go. Even if I don't
Mhm.
play it, I just keep adding to my backlog. But these are still, it's new tech, like you said. It's still really expensive for this level of speed for these SSDs. So there are more. There was that initial fear that because Sony didn't like sanction any certain SSDs, they just gave you your level of like, here's what the speed we need it to max. So there's a ton that are optional.
Mhm.
There is a lot more data now where like IGN, a lot of these big outlets are constantly saying like, here's what's on sale, here's what works with PS5. So it's easy now to buy one and know you're buying it and it's going to work with PS5. They're just still really expensive. 1 terabyte is like $250 in the US. 500 gigs is like $100 in the US at the bare minimum. So they're still really expensive. I don't mind waiting at all and just kind of swap things in and out of my PS5.
Mhm.
There's still a good amount of space on there. It's like you don't. We're not at the point
Yeah,
where it's filling up.
and the storage on the PS5 is internal as well, so whatever you do buy just adds on to what you have already. So I think that's quite nice, because normally if you buy a new drive, you then lose whatever was inside because you're replacing it. So
Right.
if you were to get like a 500 gig SSD for the PS5, then you would have what, like 1200, 1300 gigabytes of storage on there, rather than having to take out what's already in there and sort of replace it. So I think that's one good thing that kind of offsets the price. But yeah, yeah, it just worries me because these SSDs are like next gen, so who knows if there's going to be any compatibility issues, or software problems, or just general faults with them. So I think it would be nice just to wait and make sure that they actually work well with the PS5, and there's no problems with the sort of hardware itself.
Yeah, they did say. I think it was Sony kind of saving their butts in advance, where they did say, even if one of these new third-party SSDs does meet their criteria, they're not going to guarantee that it's going to be the same speed as say like something that's stored on the actual
Mhm.
proprietary SSD on the PS5. I think it's just kind of legal maneuvering to make sure it's like, hey, even if it meets those criteria,
Yeah.
the only way you get the guaranteed speed of say like Spider-Man or Ratchet and Clank, that instant loading, is with our internal hard drive.
Yeah, and I think the worrying thing as well is, if you buy an SSD for your PC and it breaks or is faulty, you can just take it out and RMA it or whatever. But in a console, you don't know what a faulty drive is going to do to it. You don't know whether it's going to brick it. Because I mean, we've seen the PS5s being bricked from lots of different, really sort of minor things, like the rest mode thing and everything like that. So I just think, yeah, it's a bit scarier to put such new tech into a a console for me, but that might just be me being paranoid and stupid.
I like to roll the dice, so if I can get my
Yeah.
hands on one of these for on the sale, I'm throwing two
Yeah.
in there and seeing
Hey,
what happens.
you've got a PC of like a 3070 or whatever. You'll be fine.
Yeah, if it hopefully keeps running. If it just dies on me, it's like then I'm SOL. But yeah, that's the updates finally here as far as SSD stuff. A lot of their initial terminology on what they were going to support, whether it's the 3D audio on TVs, the SSD external, or like a replacement, all that stuff seems to have rolled out already. I don't think there's anything initially when they launched it that they've said was in the pipeline isn't out now. I think this is the kind of the final update for what they promised as far as the PS5 launch. Is that correct? I don't think there's anything else that has yet to come
Yeah,
out.
not that I know of. Yeah, I still think it probably could do with a bit of work, especially the main UI. But yeah, I mean, every time I've been on my PS5, it's been a great experience. I can't really fault it. But it's nice it's nice to see that they are really they're adding sort of substantial things, substantial changes in these updates, which is nice because it shows that they can do that. So it means that hopefully in a few years' time it'll be like a super refined experience.
Yeah, one thing I do want is that I'm so used to the PS4 holding the power button down on the controller to shut off or go into standby. We still don't have that on PS5 where I have to press it one time, go to the right. I know it's a whole thing. It's really not the end of the world, but I'm just used to that with PS4. I would love that on PS5. If we can hopefully get that on the next update, I would be very happy.
Yeah, there is something weird about getting onto the dashboard. I still don't quite understand, whether a single press or a long press, which dashboard, because it's almost like there's two dashboards.
Yeah,
And
there's a
it's
small
sort
one
of
on the
trying,
bottom, then the main
yeah,
background. Yeah,
it's trying to remember which kind of press brings up which one. So, but I think things like that, that's quite a main thing. So I don't know how they would maneuvered getting that changed so that it's something that is better, because I think sometimes you have that problem where if you're playing a game and after a while you want to change one of the button prompts, so you change it, but then you're now suddenly used to what it was before, if that makes sense. So
right.
they might change it and then you'll sort of be in that rock and a hard place where you're still trying to compensate for for how it was before. So maybe it's just better for us to practice. We'll just like do like a Rocky Balboa montage of turning the PS5 off.
Yeah, I'm doing push-ups, and every push-up I'm trying to shut off the PS5. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Although it was not related to PS5, but it was in the news this week with Nintendo. So with the Switch, after 4.5 years, I guess they revealed through an update they allowed for Bluetooth audio. So they never had that ability to have Bluetooth headphones sync with your Switch, and people just thought, okay, I guess it's just not there. And just with an update out of nowhere, they enabled it. So it could have been there from the get go, and they just decided now 4.5 years later to do
Yeah.
that. So you have this stuff where PS or PlayStation, Xbox as well. They're trying to toggle and manipulate the experience to what gamers want. And Nintendo's just kind of, they walk into a room. Oh, I guess we can turn this thing on now and have this feature that people wanted from the get go. It's very
Yeah.
strange.
Like having multiplayer in sort of on the Switch and acting like it's the first time they've ever had, like, well, I
Right.
guess it is, but yeah, it's a very Nintendo thing to just rock up and enable Bluetooth, which is something that's like been around for so long now and like been compatible with just everything. Um, so it's funny, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I think that's great. Something portable as well to be able to use like wireless headphones. I think that's is really nice. And as someone who likes to wear headphones, sort of when I play games, I think it is nice to be able to have a wireless headset because there's no limits to where you can sit. Although that's one thing I like about PlayStation and Xbox is how you can have your headset plugged into the controller, because your
Right.
controller is obviously always going to be near you. So I guess even with a wired headset and a PlayStation, it's still basically wireless.
True. You can still, I guess the limit is how long it takes before the controller can no longer talk to your PS5, but
Yeah,
somewhat
yeah.
limitless.
Sit in the garden,
Yeah.
try to
I don't
listen
know
to
what
the
I'm
Spider.
pressing, but I'm doing something. Alrighty, Callum. So we got the next one here. Some drama with GT7. Here's why Gran Turismo 7 campaign mode requires internet connection. This is Liam Croft at pushsquare.com. As we first reported last week, Polyphony Digital's next racing simulator, Gran Turismo 7, will require a constant internet connection when playing the campaign mode. This means you won't be able to compete in races should the plug be pulled. And now the developer has explained why that is in this new interview with Eurogamer. It's essentially designed to prevent cheating and save data manipulation. Series creator Kazunori Yamuchi told the site, the requirement for the online connection isn't specific to the cafe per se, it's just to prevent cheating overall from people trying to modify the save data. So that's the reason for the online connection. He continues, the online connection is required for campaign mode. Yamachi at least explains the arcade mode won't have the online requirement bolted on since it doesn't affect save data. So if anything requires some sort of save functionality in Gran Turismo 7, you'll need to stay connected in order to access it. Callum, how do you feel about this? Do you think this could result in just a bad experience?
I don't know, because I just don't get it, because save data is not unique to Gran Turismo. It's in like every game. So
Yeah,
why is this not a problem for other games? If people are able to cheat by modifying their save data by having it sort of locally, then why is that not a problem for literally every other game that's out?
right.
Um, yeah, I mean, it doesn't personally affect me because I mean, I'm never going to play my PlayStation without internet. Well, even though I have had to actually for
Yeah,
a while. But fingers crossed I won't have to do that again. But yeah, it's just it's annoying. It's like a limitation on what is otherwise a game that should be able to be played offline. In fact, I mean, I've played lots of Gran Turismo. I don't think I've ever played any multiplayer aspect of it. So, um, yeah, it's I can see why that that could be frustrating for a lot of people.
Yeah, it could bring in a lot of issues with the launch. So usually with game launches that involve servers, there's always that hurdle in the beginning, especially a super popular game where the servers crash or have issues connecting. And so if you throw that where you can't even experience the main campaign of this game, let alone the multiplayer, when it launches, it just seems like it's something you could avoid, and you should avoid if you can. So to lock it into, it has to connect to their servers, however long it does, to play in campaign mode. It seems like just something you would really try and not have as an issue, especially with a game like this where it has to stay, locked 60 frames per second. You don't want that change in experience, but there could be a point where you're playing this game, you lose connection for whatever reason, and you're in a mid, you're driving, and then it physically just like locks you out and takes you back to the menu screen. It seems like this could be a mess at launch. Like it seems, why wouldn't they avoid this at all costs?
Yeah, and especially considering Gran Turismo, games are pretty famous for having the 24-hour Le Mans races, which are actually 24 hours long.
Whoa.
So yeah, so if you're like 10 hours into one of those, and then your internet goes bang, wouldn't be ideal. Um, but yeah, it's a strange decision. It sounds like it's to patch up or like, put like duct tape over obviously some way that they've done their save system or whatever. But yeah, I mean, again, it's probably not going to affect me personally, but I can see why that's going to frustrate a lot of people.
I will also wonder if you're worried about cheating. I get that with multiplayer, maybe with, and really with multiplayer, you have to be online. There's no way you
Mm.
can't talk to the servers, right? But with campaign, if I'm cheating in campaign and building myself up and adding XP that I didn't earn to just level up my car, unless that transfers over to the multiplayer stuff, what does it matter if I'm cheating in campaign? It's like just, it seems like a battle they don't need to have. If people are going to cheat there, it's not going to affect or give them an advantage in multiplayer. So why even have that restriction in the first place?
Yeah, it is a weird one. Just because it's such a common, not obstacle, but thing to think about in any game is how is if this is something that is just by default a thing you can do by allowing a game to be played offline, then how do other games allow them to be played offline? And
Right.
games that have multiplayer components to them and everything. Like Borderlands you can play completely offline, but at a drop of a hat you can join someone else's game and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, but
Yeah, I wonder if they're just trying to maybe foresee people manipulating the data to then buy cosmetic items that they didn't actually buy. Say with like Fortnite, that's always online, so that you have to talk to their servers. You can buy stuff, but they always confirm that that transaction is real if you do buy something there. So maybe they're trying to curb people from doing that with just buying items, but once again in the campaign, it's like then that stuff doesn't matter. I'm just in the campaign mode earning stuff there. So if I do cheat or manipulate the data to unlock something, it seems like not that big of a deal as far as making the entire game experience only online. It's just strange to me. I don't know what's going on.
yeah, it is strange. And yeah, it's just one of those things you just don't like to see, really.
Right. It reminds me of, do you remember the last SimCity game that launched? This was like 2015. It was a big thing in the news where they also introduced this only online mode where it's like the entire game had to be online. Now with that, it was Maxis and EA. They claimed that a lot of the internal stuff dealing with the simulation was done on their servers. So it wasn't just for cheating. They had to offload some of the processes on their servers. So that was the way they're promoting it. It's like, because we can do that now, it's even more advanced. We're not using your computer all the time to actually process stuff. We're using our own servers, blah blah blah. But it had to be always online. So when it launched, the servers crashed. People couldn't play it. It was a huge shit show. And then after a couple of days, people figured out, oh, we can just toggle something on and off, like in the game data, and somehow, I guess through hacking, whatever. They figured out you don't have to be online. We can turn something off to then play offline, and the game experience is the same. So it wasn't that it had to be online. They just decided to enable that, and it took a long time for them to update it and then actually officially enable that offline mode. But that time, a lot of the gamers were not there anymore. That studio ended up closing. It was a big issue, and I think of that story when I see something like this, where it's like, just why not avoid all that and just make this thing offline?
Yeah, yeah, it's I mean it's hard because I guess there's probably a reason why in Gran Turismo's case the decision was made, but it's just something you'd surely want to try and avoid.
Right.
So if there was any other things they could put in place, in separating the campaign from the multiplayer or anything, just normal that the normal games do, then I think maybe that they should have looked, done that instead of making sure that you have to play online all the time.
And maybe they did, and they realized like we need this feature. It's got to be there, and I'm sure there's a reason for it. It's just as an outsider, it seems strange, and I'm also just in fear of them having a bad experience as far as reception goes with gamers trying to play the game day one and their servers crash, which is kind of inevitable. It's like you have to have that. You're going to have the influx of players. It's going to crash. They level it out. They fix it, but when it launches, it's going to have that negative aspect tied to it, and you don't want that. You want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So yeah, I just foresee this being a shit show when it launches. Hopefully it doesn't, and they figure it out. I'm just a bit fearful of this.
Yeah.
All right, Colin, we got the next one. Oh, this is another little blurb on Gran Turismo as far as the ray tracing. So, Gran Turismo 7's PS5 ray tracing will be restricted to replays. In an interview with Japanese publication GameWatch, series creator Kazunori Yamuchi confirmed that the fancy reflective technology will be reserved for replays and when you're observing your car in its garage. Nevertheless, this does ultimately make sense. Ray tracing is an expensive technology and is less noticeable at high speed. Obviously, the priority for Gran Turismo 7 will be smooth performance as it needs to be locked 60 frames per second. I did initially read this and go, okay, that's a bummer. But then you think about it, and that makes sense. Also, it's like you're driving at 60 frames per second at those speeds. You're not noticing the ray tracing. But how do you feel about this ray tracing only being in this passive mode where it's for replays?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how it looks, I guess, because I'm sure the game's going to look great when you're playing it. But and if it means the game can look as photorealistic as it normally does without the need for ray tracing on, then then it also means better performance as well. Then yeah, I think that's probably the right compromise to make. But on paper, it sounds pretty bad, I think. But I'm sure the game's going to look great, and if it's going to play at 60, I'm sure that's going to uh, you know look awesome.
Yeah, that is the priority, making sure that the gameplay is buttery smooth. It's just one of those things with ray tracing now. It's a sticker thing to put on the front of the box where it's like it has ray
Mhm.
tracing. It's a big deal, but then to then have a little disclaimer at the bottom, ray tracing is only for the box art or whatever. It's like only when you can watch these gameplay modes after the fact. It's kind of a bummer. Also, at the end of the day, with ray tracing, like I'm a huge fan of it, but when I play it and then turn it on and off, sometimes I don't notice it, or sometimes games are so optimized to do reflections and not need ray tracing. It's kind of this tagline that's thrown around a lot. I don't know if it's super important at the end of the day. It's just with next gen now that's touted as the next advancement. Like all games can have it, and it's a big deal. So when they say it's in there, but it's kind of not, it's a bit weird there. But I don't know. I go back and forth on it. Alrighty, Cal, we got the next one. Here is from, as I switch to our main screen, some news on God of War. God of War's North story won't be a trilogy because the games take too long to make. This is from pushsquare.com. Stephen Taibbi. In an interview with YouTuber Captain Kuba, studio creative director Cory Barlog explains the reasoning behind wrapping up the story in 2 games instead of 3. In a nutshell, it all boils down to the amount of time it takes to make these large scale titles. So, as a quote from Cory Barlog, I think one of the most important reasons is the first game took 5 years, Barlog says. The second game, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm just going to throw out that it's going to take close to similar time. Then, if you think a third one in that same time frame, we're talking a span of close to 15 years of a single story, and I feel like that's just too stretched out. He says that it feels like too long an amount of time to ask players to stay invested. Barlog wants fans to be able to play the games back to back and get a full story. Callum, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think it's really well put. I think it's the right decision. I like it when people know when to sort of stop and sort of conclude something and move on to something else and everything. And that's not to say it means they're going to move away from God of War, but at least this sort of arc. I think a lot of people, have difficulty doing that. So I think it's really cool that this decision is completely creative. It's not obviously driven by money because it's more referencing the fact that they don't want people to lose interest or not feel as invested. So it's to me it sounds like it's purely a decision just to make the experience for the player better. So I think it's not talked about enough. Just calling it a day quicker, especially in games where it does take years for entries to come out. But yeah, I think it's the completely right thing to say, and I think it's a commendable thing to do.
Although Naughty Dog says hold my brick, I mean with The Last of Us, it's I don't know around 10 years at least with the first one, the second one. There's that PS4 upgrade they did at one point, so it's been a long time with that series. And there's talks of at least rumblings of a third with the studio director talking about how they wrote a concept for a third game. So it's like, but they're taking a different route. But I do understand, yeah, it's like you want to try and have a scope that you can end with the story, an arc rather that you can end with the story. So I'm totally on board with them, ending it here. And you're right where they need to kind of. I want to see that honesty a bit with more developers, and also just not having to do that same formula of we got to wrap it up in three. We got to. It's also common with movies too. They got to somehow push it into 3 games or 3 movies. So yeah, It's not a negative to me, but there's definitely other series that will spend a lot of time telling a story.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than seeing like an established studio like Santa Monica, who are so well known for, one main thing. So it's always exciting to when you see a studio, like we were saying earlier with Arcane, they have this certain kind of DNA. It's much easier to spot that when a studio has multiple different franchises and IPs. So I think it's just exciting to know that they're not going to milk a series. Not milk's probably a harsh word to use, but a series that's already been going on for years and years. I mean, there's so many God of
Yeah.
War games. It's nice to know that they're sort of being respectful of people's time and the need to get new stuff out as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, then I wonder, okay, we can end it here with the Norse mythology. Then the race is to what is the next mythology going to be? And they're not going to leave the franchise itself ended with this one, but they're going to then transition into something
Mm.
different. And I'm just super excited to imagine what that would be. But yeah, I'm very excited to play this, obviously with a bunch of people. But I'm not. It's all not at all negative to me that they're ending it with the second game, and can't wait. There is a little blurb here again about the God of War Ragnarok's at the sequel rather, is that they're also shooting for that same single shot from start to finish, just like the last game, which is dope. I think they nailed it with that, and I'm sure other cinematic games are going to try and strive for that same thing because you have that. You just feel in the game the entire experience. Besides jumping into the menu, there's no other time where you break. It's all just the same flow.
Yeah, it makes it. I think God of War in particular had a very. There's not many games come around where you just can't stop thinking about playing it, like when you're at work or even if you're out with like your friends, and you because every time you stop playing it, it feels unnatural because it's all one big shot. There's no natural pause. There's no natural place to stop, and because the story's great, and obviously it's always like a big grand adventure, having that one shot thing, like you said, it does make you feel so part of it, and it just makes it so difficult to put down. And I think it is a big part as to why God of War is so enjoyable and so playable, alongside tons of other stuff. But yeah, I think it's a really effective thing, which they need to keep in the next one.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to be getting a lot of little tidbits in the next coming months. They're starting to do a bit of promotion now, interviews talking about the game. So I'm very excited to see what they unveil and then to actually play this thing very soon. So, or next year at some point.
Yeah.
All right, Callum, we'll end it there for the week as far as the PlayStation news. Got any plans? You're just going to be jumping back into Deathloop?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll probably play a bit of that. I want to get back onto Hades at some point as well, and yeah, eventually get Ratchet and Clank too. So there's quite a lot
Right.
of stuff that I really really need to get into, but just trying to take it one game at a time at the moment and just get through them. I'm hoping that there's not like loads and loads of stuff coming out really soon that I just don't know. So I'm hoping for like a little bit of respite and some time to blast through some games that I've missed.
Well, you know, if you do want to add to that backlog, next week the director's cut for Death Stranding does come out on PS5. I think you did not play Death Stranding when it came on PS4. Do you have any interest in that director's cut?
I did, and I remember I think it might be the latest trailer. I thought it looked really good, and then at the end it was showing like race driving around like tracks and things, and I was just like,
Yeah.
maybe it's a bit much, a bit much for. I just got, yeah, I don't know. It's just not been able to maybe grab me enough simply because I've just got so many games I want to play at the moment. I know Death Stranding's a long one as well, so
Yeah.
um, it's definitely a game I'd like to play at some point. Maybe after I've played through the Metal Gear Solid games, it will spur me on to want to play Death Stranding. But yeah, for the moment, I'll probably be giving it a miss.
I think the racing thing is like an external or an extra element. They're kind of adding different things you can do. I want to say it's that. In the main
Mm.
campaign, I can at least confirm that you didn't have you know any kind of racing element going on. So it seems like an extra thing. But it was a blast to play. It is a long game. It is super weird. The story's really cool. I did not like the way it ended. I was very very angry with the way it ended. But the entire experience was really dope, and it's very Kojima. But yeah, I can understand putting this on the back burner for a while until you're
Yeah.
ready to jump in.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it'd be a perfect PlayStation Plus game, sort of for me. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen at the moment, but maybe like a few months down the line, it could be a good one. But yeah, I think it's like in a similar boat to Control, which now that I've got through PlayStation Plus, it's a lot higher up my list of games to try. So yeah, if it was to come out for free because I'm a cheapskate, then maybe I'll give it a go.
Gotcha. Yeah, this one you got to play it at some point. But I hear you. It's very weird, but it's awesome. Alrighty, Cam, we'll end it there for the week then. Where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Bear Munro.
Awesome. You can keep up with the show as well on Twitter at PlasticCardPod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Okay, let's go.